Aloha everyone, Z808 here, and welcome to another of my How to Build Heroes guides. I'm not gonna pretend I know everything, so everything in my guides will be based on my own research and or personal experience. Please use these guides as a simple reference and not as the absolute way of building your heroes. In order to have some consistency, I will use the 4 following topics for each guide. First, we'll look at what role will this hero have in PvP and or PvE if any. Second, we'll look at the hero's talent and recommended skill set for the role mentioned. Third, we'll be looking at recommended gears, enchants, mastery enchants, and soldiers. Finally, the fourth topic will look at some examples with game footage if available. Alright, part 1. Today we are going to talk about SP Cherie. Yeah, just a warning, this guy will be longer than usual as she is a very complicated hero. When SP Cherie was announced in the Chinese server, she was not well received at all. When looking at her talent and her new skills, it did not look appealing at all. However, with the twist of fate, she is now considered top tier in Apex. And here's a list of 5 things that you must know, plus 1 if you plan to use her. Number 1, she is most likely not going to one-shot many heroes. Again, she's most likely not going to one-shot many heroes. Her attack stat went down compared to her flyer class. You will also most likely use her new 1C passive instead of Legion, resulting in only about 1800 attack in PvP combat. Her soldier choices is also not the greatest, and they don't hit the super hard. She can kill a good number of units, but you also will miss some as well. Do some testing to make sure you understand what your limit is. To sum it up, you need to play smart when choosing a target, or you can use hit and run tactics. Number 2, her new talent to act again is very finicky, but it can be also very helpful. Her talent changing from needing to kill a target to being able to act again as long as there is 1 or less enemy within 2 blocks allows her to be very versatile, especially since she has a movement of 6 or 8 with breeze. You'll most likely need a few tries and you will make a lot of mistakes. I know I have. Now initially, I can guarantee you will mess up a lot. However, with more use, it will become second nature, and hopefully it will get easier and easier. Number 3, SP Cherie is obnoxiously confusing to use. This is in regards to her skills, soldier selections, pre-battle. She has a few nice attack skills. However, her limitation is that she can either be really good at melee or really good at range, not both at the same time. Now this is due to her limitation of her assassin skill, which is Shadow Raid, is not usable in melee range, and her best range soldier, the Earth Elf Knight, also has a melee penalty. This means that you have to start thinking about how to use her from the ban pick phase to maximize her potential. In other words, it can be a bit overwhelming to use her effectively for some players. Number 4, she is perfect for baiting single target magic damage. If you're able to ban pick in a way to force your opponent to be using single target magical damage, SP Cherie really shines. She's able to use angels to counter single magic damage. If you add the angel's talent to reduce magic damage by 45% and SP Cherie's new talent to reduce another 20%, and also factor in the flyer tech aerobatics to decrease another 20% damage when battling on defensive terrain, and to add that south to insult, that the ground air coordination also gives you a plus 20 defense and magic defense whenever they're in mixed forces, which she is always in. So it's almost impossible, literally. With Last Rites and Glory of the World, good luck trying to one-shot SP Cherie using any single target magic damage. It's not gonna happen, trust me. So number 5. So the question is, why is she so good in Season 8? Now the answer lies in the triple threat of Light of Genesis, Lucretia, and Kayura, who are all strong magic base attackers. They're also fragile enough for SP Cherie to kill them using either melee or assassin skill. Now combine her ability to act again, fairly high mobility, flexible strategy, and strong against the triple threat meta units, SP Cherie has made her way into many Apex boxes. Now for the +1, SP Cherie is actually super good for PvE as well. Her new talent allows her to act again without the need to kill something, makes her usable for PvE, especially against boss-like challenges. You can also use Legion passive skills to boost her attack even more, as you normally do not require the 6 moves. Now you can add the lightning speed skill for a chance to proc Gale and possibly act twice more often, or even 3 times a turn. It can get pretty crazy. Alright, I know that was a information overload. I know it is for me. But I feel that you should really understand what she's all about before you spend a crazy number of resources on her. Like any SP hero, they require an extreme amount of resources to build, and also crazy enchant to make her worthwhile, especially in PvP. Alright, moving on. Let's move on to part 2. So let's look at her talent. It's called Ambitious Princess. When unit moves, all passable terrain is considered as plain. So you can look at her as Juggler, which means odious is your worst nightmare. When forced into battle, damage taken is decreased by 20%. This applies to your soldiers as well. Now when initiating battle, attack increased by 25%. So this makes up for some of the attack that's lost compared to the Flyer class and not able to use the Legion passive. After battle, if there are only 1 enemy or less within 2 blocks, can act again 1 additional time. And the cooldown triggers act again effect has a 2-turn cooldown. So the ability to act again without the need to kill is what makes SP Cherie much more useful. Okay, moving on to her 3C skill. It's called Raging Storm, cost is 3, cooldown is 5, range 1, span is single. It is a physical attack, attacks a single enemy dealing 1.6 damage. After combat, recovers HP equal to 100% of damage dealt. And she hits pretty hard, so she will get full, basically like a full heal. If this attack kills the target, it will reduce cooldown by 4, otherwise enemy is stunned. Lasts for 1 turn, but the stun cannot be dispelled. Again, the stun cannot be dispelled. So if you stun the tank, that's GG, because if you can stun the tank, act again, and boom, you can kill something right away. So while her 3C looks simple, it is super powerful, and with the undispellable stun or the full heal, I mean, it can get pretty crazy. Just gotta watch out for those Rose and Seal stacks, as well as Gospel, or I think it's Mass Protect that prevents stun. Alright, now let's move on to her new skills. So her 1 cost passive is called Gallop. Unit mobility +2 when form of mixed forces, which she is always with mixed forces. After taking actions, restores 30% of unit HP. That's huge, 30%. Hands down one of the best passive that anyone can have. I mean, you really cannot beat +2 permanent movement. That is insane. Her new 2 cost skill is called Holy Thunder. Cost is 2, cooldown 2, range 1, span single. Physical attack is a physical damage. Attacks a single enemy for 1.4 damage, not 1.5, it's 1.4. And cost displacement pushes target back 2 blocks. After battle, restores 20% damage dealt as HP and disable the target's passive, which can be used for sometimes. It just only lasts one turn though, and it can be dispelled. This skill can be useful, but it's very situational. So again, you get a little bit health back, but I'm not sure. I think maybe Thunder might be still the better attack skill. Okay. Now let's look at some recommended skill sets. Now if you're using melee soldiers and you focus on melee damage, you definitely want to have her 3C. Then you can either use her new 2-cost Holy Thunder, Lightning, or the Lightning Speed. And then of course, definitely you need Gallop. Now this is the following skill sets are recommended for PvP, and then there's one for PvE. Now for the other skill set for melee, using melee soldiers, but you want to be a bit more tactical to kind of use in conjunction with her talent, is you bring your 3C, you bring Shadow Raid and Gallop. Okay, the reason for that is Shadow Raid, so depending on the positioning of the your opponent, you can use Shadow Raid to activate your act again, so you don't have to stand next to someone, and then you can use attack with your 3C skill to kill. So a lot of different ways of using your skill in a intelligent way, I guess you can say. If you're using range soldiers, however, you can still use exactly the same skill set, which is 3C, Shadow Raid, and Gallop, except, you know, we're talking about focusing on sniping squishies like those 3 that I mentioned a bit earlier. However, the way you're gonna use her skills and the way you're gonna use your act again will be a little bit different, and not gonna go too much into it. I'm gonna make an advanced guide with the video and everything to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Okay. And another way of using ranged soldier, and this is specifically for focus on sniping a bit stronger targets, you're gonna actually forgo the 3C skill. You're gonna get Legion to bump up your attack some more, Shadow Ray, and Gallop. Very situational, but sometimes it makes sense where you have one target that you absolutely want to kill, and this is one of those really rare circumstances you can use this skill set. Now for PvE, you're gonna use a little bit different. I actually recommend you can use the 3C skill, but instead I think Lightning Speed might be better because it will allow you to gale, which is really nice. And then use Lightning, and then instead of using Gallop, I think Legion might actually be better for PvE because it's going to give you a higher attack. And when you're fighting those boss challenges or whatnot, they have extreme high defense, so having the extra attack definitely helps. Okay, so that's what I would recommend as far as skill set goes. Okay, now moving on to part 3. Before we look at the equipment, we're going to talk a little bit about her heart bond. Her defense bond, it says when forced into battle, magic damage taken is decreased by 10%. So she's very good at tanking magic. Her level 7, her attack bond, is when forced into battle through a physical attack, damage dealt is increased by 10%. And that makes sense because she only can retaliate physical. And well, I guess there are some magical attack, let's say for example Odious, but it's more rare if anything, so you know her attack bond is pretty good. Okay, now let's look at the recommended gear set. I think Ragnarok is her best in slot. It's a must have. If you don't have a Ragnarok, I almost don't even recommend building her, unless you want to go a really unique build. But Axes just have the much higher base attack, and the before battle fixed damage helps a lot. She can do some crazy damage with that. If you don't have a Ragnarok, I guess you can go with the meme build with Mimir War Axe, I guess, to up your damage if someone else dies. As far as armor, She's interesting because she can actually wear holy, heavy, and light armor. So last rites, you should have a last rite because when she was in her flyer class, you should have already built one for her. Last rite is probably her best in slot. However, the Forbidden Defender's armor is also a really good choice because it doesn't matter. It's more RNG than anything. You don't need a full HP. And then also, if you don't have neither of those, you can use the Cloak of Defiance, because if you're fighting mages with Sorceress, Cloak of Defiance will make their life very, very difficult. For Helm, wow, what can I say? Glory of the World is like made specifically for her, because if you look at her class is holy. All her soldiers, none of her soldiers are holy. That means she will always be able to activate that 10% pre-battle heal, and also be able to resurrect one time from, I believe, fixed damage. Unfortunately for me, I don't have a Glory of the World, but definitely her most recommended helm. Of course, you can also use like Tenyo helm or the Fury of Tyr, but I think like her weapon, where Ragnarok and the Glory of the World is probably like the best. Now for the accessory, this is when you can go one way or another. If you have that first column, which is the Rag Last Rites, Glory of the World, I would actually recommend Overlord Badge. Now the reason why is Overlord Badge still have pretty decent stats that she went HP, attack. It does have 5%, but it has these really nice immunity, so that you don't have to worry about debuffs of her attack or defense or magic defense going down. Even if you won't get a movement down as well. But most importantly, if you're facing Lucretia and she used her 3C on you, Lucretia's 3C is strong against Holy, and it debuffs all that attack, right? Attack, magic defense, and skill. Overlord Badge will actually prevent her from debuffing you that magic defense plus your attack and everything. So it's insanely good when you're fighting single target Lucretia. So again, if you make yours to able to tank single target magic, that's what I would recommend. Other than that, if you're focused more on a more aggressive build, if you want to kill stuff, Holy Talisman is good, Prisoner's Gear, Wing Shin Guard is really good for tanking physical. Of course, you can go with the if you want to deal with flyers, you can use this accessory here. And then if you don't have a Ragnarok for any reason, Twilight Star would work to break 100%, and I guess you can go with that Mimir War Axe build that way. But still, Ragnarok is probably the recommended weapon of choice. Okay, moving on. For enchants, I would recommend Breeze, Fubun, or Rough Sea. As far as I personally, I will use Breeze for the extra damage and range. She has pretty decent attack, but she doesn't have much, I guess, any other way for herself to increase her damage. So that's why I think Breeze would be the ideal. And of course, Full Moon will make her a little bit tankier, and in Rough Sea, if you already have a set of really, OP enchants on a set of gear, especially like, I know people probably had built like Last Rites and stuff like that with Rough Sea already, so that's a possibility. For Mastery enchants, the AB Stones, I recommend actually HP, attack, defense, and magic defense. You want her to be a little bit tanky. However, if you want to go with that aggressive build, you want to go with HP, attack, and skill, especially if you can get a nice crit percentage on your accessory. Like let's say if you get a 10% or higher, you can go with aggressive build. PvP stones, HP, attack, defense, magic defense, crit damage reduction for the more tankier build. which is the one I'm going with. However, if you're going with aggressive, is HP, attack, skill, crit chance, and crit damage up. Along with that skill and crit chance on your accessory, she can be pretty dangerous as long as you get rid of that Hilda buff first, because you are able to, and then when you act again, you might be able to crit. So it's doable. Okay, for soldiers, it kind of really depends on your target. Again, as I mentioned a bit earlier, it can be super complicated. But if you're gonna tank and deal with single target magic users, Angel is definitely the way to go. If you wanna snipe, you wanna use range, you can use Earth Elf Knights. And then if you wanna tank bus, unicorns is possible, but it's kind of hard because Hilda can use lancers. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. And if you're trying to kill mages using sorceress, unicorn might not be the best or ideal unit as well. So most likely Angel or Earth Elf Knight. You can also use Griffins, I guess, if you want to be a bit more physical, higher physical. But Griffins doesn't tank well at all, so that's not ideal. Okay, moving on to part 4, tips and examples. Now this guy is already way too long. I mean, it's way longer than what I intended. So I will provide an advanced guide with visuals in a separate video. With gameplay and everything, and it also showcase my hero and what my stats look like. However, right now I want to leave you with these tips, and hopefully it will improve your game. So the first one is practice, practice, practice. I can't say that enough. Her act again is super easy to mess up. I have done it so many times. I've been practicing, but still, please practice. Second, she is not an I win button like Lucretia Arene. So understanding your strength and weaknesses plus your opponent's abilities is a must. Okay, and that leads to the next one, is make sure to understand your win condition and plan ahead during the band pick phase. Setting her up her skills and soldiers will have a significant impact on her performance, and that's why I mentioned later. That's why I think I want to do that advanced guide, because it's too much to explain like in a few words. SP Cherie will depend on having a fusion buff or equivalent, like a attack best or like gospel or something, and or plus damage, because she does, like if you're using breeze, that's 10%, but that's really about it. When you're attacking, her bonds doesn't give her any damage up when attacking. So keep that in mind as you're building your team and skills. Then most importantly, use her in PvP content, please. She's super broken in PvE. Trust me, like I use her in everything now in PvE. Kind of literally replace Yulia. SSSS tier. So that's really it. If you found this guy useful, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and share. Good luck if you're building her, and aloha.